Today we're getting all fancy and we're going to learn trapunto. Trapunto is an Italian method of quilting which in simple terms means puffy areas within your quilt. And today I'm going to show you 3 different ways to do trapunto. The first method I want to share with you today is using heat and bond light. With your applique shape, you want to trace the shape on your heat and bond light and then remove the middle portion within your applique shape. This would leave just a little border that's going to fuse to the background of your quilt. You'll fuse that to the back side of your fabric. And then you cut your applique shape directly on the line. This gives you a small amount of fusible around the entire edge of your applique piece. Then you center it right onto your design, fuse the heat and bond light, and then cut a small little hole or a slit right behind it. And with some loose polyfill, you're just going to stuff that shape really loosely. Don't stuff it too much because you might pop out of the heat and bond like I did. And then you're ready to finish up your project. So in this case, I'm making a mug rug, the Easy Peasy Trapunto Mugrugs today. So I'm going to go ahead. I have not stitched down any of the applique portion yet. I'm going to layer my mug rug like I normally would. I'm going to glue baste it to the batting and then go ahead and do my binding. The applique is just sitting there stuffed at this point. And then once your project is layered, you can go in and use any of the stitches in your sewing machine to stitch down your applique. In this case, I'm using a loose zigzag stitch and just going around the diamond's shape, stitching that down. Now you could be done at this point. The little diamond shape is puffy. See that? Nice and puffy. But if you really want it to pop, you can also quilt the background area, and that's going to give yourself a lot more dimension as well. So in this section, I did a stippling. I'm going to continue that stippling around the other side that has not been done yet. That's really going to make the puffy diamond really pop off the background. And that is the first method. Once you're done, you'll see that the diamond is really standing up above the rest of the quilt project with a lot of dimension. And I think this is really cool because now the applique is a feature part of your project. So let's explore method number 2. For method number 2, I again am going to be using heat and bond light. Only this time we're not going to remove the inside portion of the heat and bond light. We're just going to do our normal method of applique with any type of fusible that you want. So we're tracing on the line. We'll separate it from the rest of the fusible, leaving a little bit of extra around our space or around our shape. And then we're going to fuse that to the back side of the fabric we want to use as our applique. Cut out the shape and remove the paper, and now we can fuse our applique right into position on our project. So now all of the applique is fused to the background of our project. You'll of course want to use any fusing directions for whatever type of fusible that you're working with. And then we're going to bring in some poly batting. Now this is a pretty low loft poly batting, so I'm going to double this up. Depending on the loft of the batting that you want to use, you might only use a single layer. We're just going to lay that right underneath of the top of our mug rug and do a straight stitch, a basting stitch, really close to the edge of the applique fabric. You'll see I'm just inside that raw edge of the applique shape. You might want to use the same thread that you plan on doing a finishing stitch with so that it all blends in. Once I'm done, we're going to go over and with a pair of scissors, we're going to remove all of the extra batting from around our shape. Be careful not to cut into your project underneath. And then we're going to go back to the sewing machine one more time. And I just have the top layer of my mug rug and 2 sheets of tearaway stabilizer. And now I'm going to do a satin stitch. And a satin stitch is pretty dense, and so that's the reason I have the tearaway stabilizer underneath to help support those stitches, and it'll help those stitches lay nice and flat. It'll keep my project from puckering up around my applique shape. We'll do my satin stitch. You could actually use all kinds of different decorative stitches in your sewing machine. And once you're done, you're just going to remove the tearaway stabilizer from the back side. And don't forget the little, any inside portions, that stabilizer needs to be removed too. Now you can just go ahead and finish up your project as you normally would. For this one, I'm just going to stitch right around this applique shape with a straight stitch using my free motion foot. And you could be done at that point, or you could do additional quilting as well. For this one, again, I'm going to do just a small little meandering stitch in the background. It's not always necessary. Your heart is going to be puffy one way or the other, but the background filling with the quilting will actually help puff up the applique shape that you've done the trapunto with. Now for the third method of doing trapunto, today I'm going to show you how we're not using any fusible at all. I have the piece of applique fabric with the pretty side facing down, and I'm just going to trace the shape of my applique on the back side. Then I'm going to bring in another piece of fabric and put the pretty sides together, bring this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to do a straight stitch all the way around, not leaving an opening. And I like to make sure my stitches are really close together. And then we're going to trim away all of the extra fabric from the edges. Once we do that, we're going to cut a small slit right in the center. Separate those two pieces and cut a small slit. And we're going to turn this right side out and give it a press. So there is our applique shape. Again, with some loose polyfill, I'm going to fill up this shape, not too puffy. You don't want it really stiff. You want to be able to squish it down, but you don't want any empty areas in your shape either. Just a loose fill using tiny bits of polyfill. So there's our puffy little shape. In this method, we're going to go ahead and complete the mug rug with the quilting. So everything is put together, the binding is done, and it is quilted. And now we're just going to lay our applique wherever we want it onto our project. You might want to pin it down if that's helpful for you. And then just using a straight stitch, I'm just going in right close to the edge of my applique shape and stitching all the way around. I wanted to give a shout out to designbundles.net. If you've never checked out designbundles.net, you need to go over there. They have thousands and thousands of free bundles that you can download, that you could make heat transfer vinyl or sublimation graphics with. And that is where I've gotten the images to do the feature fabric of my mug rugs today. See the dimension on that shape? Nice and puffy. So I hope this has been helpful. This is just 3 different ways that I could quickly show you on different methods for doing trapunto or puffy applique. I hope it's been helpful, and yeah, feel free to explore all the other kinds of ways. There's tons of videos out there on doing trapunto, and these are just 3 of the different methods, but these are nice and quick and easy. Thank you so much for watching along today, and we'll see you all really soon. Bye, everybody.